In this video we will go through what is GraphQL and try to quote some real-life scenario. So let's imagine that you are a car salesman and you have a bunch of cars in your showroom and you want to sell them. And luckily, someone came. The visitor looked at a car, liked the price and approached you. And then they were like, yes. Buyer wanted to get a finance for this car, and you as salesman are excited. Let's go through the process and understand how the finance part works. But before I do that, two things needs to be checked. As per the company policy, car can be sold to an individual if the buyer is a citizen of the country where he currently lives. So let's say we are living in United States, so you need to check the citizenship and you also need to check their credit score, because if they have a poor credit score, you might not want to finance this car to him. So what do you do? Well, you go to your computer and in your computer you have this database, and what you do is you search that person's name. So let's say that person's name is John Wright. So you go ahead and do you search for it. And then you get a bunch of information about John Wright. So we have their gender, their birth date, their occupation, their spouse, their social security number, and we don't know why this is needed, and then you can see here we have their citizenship. Okay, the buyer is a citizen of United States, his email ID, his phone number and his credit score, which is 800. So after a quick glance and going through everything, we can finally find interested buyer's citizenship and credit score. But there's a little bit of a problem around what's going on here. I only needed buyer's citizenship and his credit score. I didn't need their gender. I didn't need their birthday. I didn't need any of this other information. And if this was a relatively long list, it'd be very cumbersome and very hard to find the fields that I was looking for. So what ended up happening was that a software company listened to the concerns of its users, and instead what it did was it said, okay, now you have this search option, but we also have this drop-down option as well. And inside this drop-down option, you can pick what fields you want to filter for. So you can write John Wright over here and then you can say, I want the citizenship and I also want the credit score. And then what it does is it just gives you the citizenship as well as the credit score, and it omits all the other pieces of information. And this is all possible through GraphQL. So let's actually talk about what GraphQL is. So GraphQL is a query language which gives the client the power to ask for exactly what they need. But GraphQL, in a nutshell, is a query language. So it's a language where we query for data, but we have the ability to ask for exactly what we want. Now there's more to it than that. There's a lot more things that GraphQL does, but in a nutshell, that is what it is. Now that we have a basic understanding of what GraphQL is and what it provides us, let's start talking about some of the basic benefits of using GraphQL. We will talk more about GraphQL on how it prevents overfetching. Let's go through another example to really illustrate this. So over here, let's say we have a website, an e-commerce website where we are selling our products. So one page would be listing all of our products. We have a product image as well as the product's name. So we're listing the products, and when somebody clicks on a particular product, what happens is they get redirected to the product page. Over here we have an image, the title, some product description and the price. Now, let's think about this particular page, the product page. If we wanted to fetch the data for that particular product page, what we have to do? Well, we're going to have our client, and then we're going to have our server. Our server is in charge of interacting with the database, manipulating the data in some way and then returning it to the client. Now, in order to select a specific set of data, we have an endpoint, so that we have to hit a specific endpoint that is defined in the server. And so the endpoint that we might hit is something like product/1. So this is saying, hey, I want the details around product 1. And the server says, okay, not a problem. I am going to respond back the data relevant to product 1. I am going to respond with the data product that has an ID of 1. And let me just zoom in the response here. The response could look something like this. So we get an object back and we have the name product description, which we need. We also have the price which we need, and we also have the image which we need. We also have the created date, that is when this product was added in the e-commerce platform. Okay, doesn't seem like we need the created date details here, but we got it. We also have the rating, also doesn't seem like we need it here, but we got it. But it doesn't seem that bad. Most of the data that we got, we are using. So this seems okay. Now let's start talking about the products page. So over here we have the products page, and what we might do is we are going to hit another endpoint in our API called products. And what this does is it gets all of our products. So it's going to give us an array of objects. And so we might get something that looks like this. And let's just zoom in here a little bit. So this you can kind of symbolize as an array of objects. You can see here we have the name description, the price, the image they created, that the rating for every single entity. Now the only problem here is, for this page, even though I am looking for the same exact data, I do not need a lot of these things. All I need is the name and the image of each product. As you can see here, we have an image and we have a name. I don't need the description, I don't need the created date, and I don't need the rating. I don't need the price. I just need the name and the image. So you can see that this is getting a little bit cumbersome. So let's try to fix this. We are trying to fix this overfetching, because that's exactly what we're doing. We're overfetching data. I only needed the image and the name, but I'm getting all this additional data. So let's fix this with GraphQL. So with GraphQL, instead of hitting a particular endpoint, what we do is we define the structure of data that we want back, and we do that through a query that looks something like this. And if this doesn't make sense to you, that is okay, we are going to go into this in a lot of detail, but understand that in GraphQL, what we are doing is we are defining the structure of the data. So over here, we are saying that, hey, I want to query something. Okay, what do I want to query? Well, I want to query all of the products. Okay, that's awesome. Now, inside of the products, we have multiple things. We have name, description, price, image created, and rating. What is it that you want? Well, I want the image and I want the name. That's it for this particular page. That is exactly what I want. And you know what? That's exactly what it gives you. It gives you the name, the image for every single entity, and that is what is extremely powerful about GraphQL. Well, you can see here we are getting exactly the data that we want. Now let's go through this exact same scenario, but with the product page, so we might have a query that looks like this. Alright. So far we have covered what is GraphQL and where it's useful and where it can be used. Now let's just quickly compare REST versus GraphQL. REST is an alternate to GraphQL. So with REST, this is the data that we get back when we want to call that endpoint to get the array of products. So you can see here there's a lot of data over here. On the other hand, well, there's very little data in case of GraphQL. We are getting back exactly what we want, and what we also look at the other example over here, we are getting everything for that one product, whereas here we are getting again exactly what it is that we all want. So I think this proves that one of the huge benefits of GraphQL, it prevents overfetching. That's about GraphQL, really nice technology, easy to use and easy to get started. If you have any questions, then put them in the comments section. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe, because I have lot of videos coming up for you.